Hey, it's John Nemo. Welcome back to another episode of Nemo Radio. And I want to fly my red flags. I, this, I want to have some fun with this because one of the great things about being in the trenches in your business, and this is something you cannot learn or that you forget or that you can't relate to if you're too far removed from certain elements of your business, the day to day, or if you haven't come up in a business working all the different roles or many of the different roles. There really is something to be said for understanding what it's like in the trenches, the hand-to-hand combat that goes on in the sales arena, right? The client relations, the communications, all these different things, and really understanding great leaders make it their mission to never lose touch with that, with what's really going on, on the floor, in the trenches, the operations, whether they actually go and do those roles, whether they just make it an effort to talk to those people. I think there's just something so valuable about that. And just in my own journey, as I'm trying to scale and grow my business to another level, another plateau, it's really understanding so many of these core lessons that my business coach, God bless him, he's a patient man, has to keep hammering into my head. And the ones that really resonated today were understanding that you win or lose based on client selection, and that the quality of clients is the quality of your life. And that just because you can close a deal doesn't mean you should. And it's been really hard for me because one of the things is I'm so competitive. I love to win. I hate losing. Ask my wife. We're in a pickleball league. Are you into pickleball with the paddles and the wiffle balls? We got into pickleball through like a community ed program. And now we're playing all the time and we're in a league. And it's supposed to just be for fun and recreational. But I'm telling you, man, I hate losing. I hate it. I'm so competitive and I want to win. And even though I know it's just for fun and everything, it's still really hard to dial that down or turn that off. And I get the same way with sales, right? And I hate, quote, losing and not closing a sale. And what my, coach has really been working with me on, and I thought it would be a good lesson for anyone listening, is sometimes you win by not closing the sale. Sometimes you win by not taking on a client. And so just some recent experiences had some trends where I intentionally said no. I said no to taking on a client, or I said no to moving forward. I said no to engaging. And it really just taught me a lot about understanding, kind of keeping that authority positioning, that leverage, that abundance mindset as well, and kind of saying, you know what, it was a win, even though I didn't close that sales call. It was a win because I learned a key thing about I'm not properly, in one instance, it was I'm not properly conveying my value. And I did a whole podcast about that. And so I got a bunch of content out of a failed sales call where, doing this podcast as well is partly me just processing, like in the heat of the moment, being able to talk about the experiences I'm having, the lessons I'm learning. And obviously I'm hoping it benefits you and that you're getting takeaways and ideas and insights, but also it helps me to kind of crystallize it, right? To almost use it like journaling, but also to create content from it and kind of share what I'm learning in real time. And so, one of the issues that came up today that, again, flying a red flag, was talking to a prospect who, stop me if you've heard this before, but they kind of think they know better. They kind of, this is the first time I've ever had this happen on a call where a prospect literally said to me, well, I know you're a LinkedIn lead generation agency and I know you do these different things with LinkedIn, but I've got a different system. I've got a different approach. And, if we were to work together, you would need to learn my way of doing LinkedIn lead generation. This is the prospect talking. You need to learn my methods and you would need to change what you do in order to work with me. And I was just like, you do realize you booked a call with me and I run a LinkedIn lead generation agency. Like, that'd be like me booking a call with an accountant or a tax person, right? And me going, now I know I called you about accounting services, but I have a real different way of doing accounting, right? I have a different way of doing bookkeeping. I have a different way of doing tax planning. You're going to need to listen to me and learn my methods. And then you need to go learn and implement it yourself. Like, obviously that's a red flag with a client where, of course, you're not going to be aligned. And this client this prospect, I should say, they did not become a client. Obviously, I said no, but they're like, well, this is the other red flag that I see a lot of. They said, well, listen, I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to, I'm willing to sign up with you. And if you prove me wrong, I'm happy to be put in my place. I'm happy to have you show me I'm wrong. And I used to do that. And I used to be like, I'll knock your socks off. And inevitably what happened was, of course, Nobody likes being proven wrong. Nobody likes having their ego hurt. Nobody likes admitting, yeah, I was an idiot. So of course, these clients, that I would sign in the past with that attitude ended up being disasters. Or they would come into the project fighting tooth and nail against what we're doing because, again, they're convinced at a core level we're doing it the wrong way, and they're looking for reasons for it to fail or lobbing in grenades of why they don't think it'll work and we can't get anything done, et cetera. And so that was a huge red flag, was really understanding the client doesn't trust your process. You're not aligned. And there's so many different levels of alignment when you get into a client relationship. Are you aligned on mindset? And so for me, are we aligned in how do you view marketing? Is it an investment in yourself? Is it just an expense? Is it, I want instant gratification? I just view marketing as a math problem, money in, money out. Or do I view marketing as I'm building a business, I'm building a brand, I'm building awareness, I'm building an audience. There's more to marketing than just money in, money out, sales made, sales out, which of course matters and is important. But, I want to align with someone on marketing that says, I'm playing a bigger game here. I've got a long-term view of this. I'm not going to panic if it's, it's not just about the dollars and cents, right? So are you aligned on mindset? Are you aligned on tactics? Like that's another thing is I've really tried hard to pre-qualify people by giving away all my tactics for free. So if you read my books, if you watch my videos, if you follow my LinkedIn newsletter, if you read my emails, I don't hold anything back. I give away all my secret sauce, all my messaging styles, all my strategies, all my templates, all my things, because I want alignment. Because what I found is, sure, you can give away all your best stuff for free and some people will use it and go get great results and will never pay me a penny. But you know what they will do is refer me business or give me 5-star Amazon reviews or recommend me and refer people to me when someone says, wow, your profile's awesome. How'd you come up with that? Oh, I took it from this guy's template. You should go get it. Here's his name and go download his stuff. And inevitably what happens is people want to hire you to implement for them. If you demonstrate all this expertise and insight, they're aligned with your strategy. It resonates. It feels good. And I know I have a good client when they say to me, man, I really like your approach. I really like your strategy. It makes so much sense. I totally get it. I want you to do it for me because I don't want to take the time to do it. You obviously, this is exactly how I would want to market myself on LinkedIn. I just don't want to take the time to do it. Can you do it for me? And that's what becomes a great client because you're aligned on the tactics. Whereas the client, the prospect I talked to today was like, we were so misaligned on tactics. We were even debating what type of content works best. So, one prospect was saying to me, I was talking about how one of the types of content that's worked best on LinkedIn for our clients across every niche is ebooks, right? An ebook meaning a PDF of 5, 10, 15 pages that is basically a 3,000 to 6,000 word book, right? It's your story, it's your journey, it's, where you've been, what you've done. So people get to know, like, and trust you. And it's authentic. It's got real photos of you. You're telling good stories. But then it's also demonstrating expertise, and here's my best advice if you want to do this. And here's how I help people solve these problems. And here's a case study of me helping a company do this, this, and this. Those ebooks work incredibly well to not only get initial interest and engagement on LinkedIn, but to work as a qualifying tool. Because if someone actually reads a 3,000 to 5,000 word ebook that's all about you, your story, your journey, your business, your approach, your tactics, and they have that need, and they still now, after reading all that, want to talk to you live, they're a really good prospect. They're really qualified. Because again, we've started the process on LinkedIn by only targeting people who would be your exact ideal customer based on job title, industry, etc. So when I explain all this to the prospect, they're like, nah, nobody reads ebooks. Okay, and again, they're like, it should be videos. Like everyone's going to want to watch a video about me. And, this piece of this and this and that. And I was just like, okay, well, basically it was like, what are you basing that on? And it was basically their opinion of what they thought was the right thing to do. And I'm like, okay, well, just so you know, I've been doing this since 2012 and I've literally done every type of content imaginable for clients. I've done for you webinars, done for you podcasts, done for you videos, done for you video series, live events, live webinars, on-demand webinars, ebooks, blog posts, articles, newsletters, emails, landing pages, everything else. What I've found, what the data says, what the audience tells us is that ebooks is where people are most likely to engage, say yes, start a conversation, want more of, and then that's what leads to the best quality leads. they're like, nah, no, disagree. I'm like, okay, well, we're not aligned. So let's separate, separate there. And another big red flag that I've been running into lately is giving up your leverage, giving up your authority on a call. And what I mean with this is trying to qualify people so you can get rid of kind of the professional, I call them dabblers, right? They want to dabble, they want to just kind of play business, they want to talk, they want to pretend they're serious, they want to, paint this big vision, but they don't want to actually take any action. They don't want to put their money where their mouth is. They don't want to be serious. They don't want to take a risk. They don't want to invest. And I've talked to so many of these people lately where they're like, well, I got big plans. I see this vision and I can scale it to this, this, and this. And I'm so confident in my ability. I can do this, this, and that. I just need the leads. And I'm like, okay, well, if I provide you with that many leads, you'd make, X many $1 million. And the great news is to hire me would be a fraction, tiny percentage of that. So this should be a no brainer. And then all of a sudden it's, well, I want to think about it and process it. And I want to go off to like a cave and, like, no, you don't. Like, you're not that's the other piece with sales is like the leverage lives underneath what they're literally saying. What people literally, you cannot take what people say literally. And I just got off a call where the literal words the person said was, I never make a decision on a call. I never make a decision on the spot. I never say yes to anything without thinking it over and processing and taking this much time and meeting with these different people and running all these scenarios by them. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we just spent almost 2 hours together and we walked through every phase, of what I do and how I do it. And you told me you're wildly confident you can, get this much business out of the leads I provide. And I'm telling you, if you can close 1 to 2 deals in a year with me, that you recoup your investment, if not double it. So if I reach out to hundreds of thousands of people on LinkedIn, get you all these leads, do you not think you can close 1 or 2 deals? Oh, that's not the issue at all, but I made a promise I'm not going to do it. And it's like, I didn't feel like being a jerk and pushing, but typically that objection has to do with they don't trust themselves. And I'm not as like smooth where I wouldn't just attack somebody. Like, I'm still trying to process like how to do that. Like, there's a great book on this called what is it? Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, the FBI terrorism negotiator, of kind of these probing questions, but basically what you want to do is, well, it's essentially, in my mind, you saying you have to think about it and go off and do all these things after you already laid out this whole thing about there's nothing stopping me from wanting to move forward, right? It's like, and again, I'm structuring the sales call. So my last question is, well, now that we've laid everything out and all the deliverables, assuming we can agree on price today, is there any other reason you don't want to start immediately? And if they say yes to that, then I lay out the price. And then if they still hem and haw, then I go, well, wait a minute, I'm confused because you said you're ready to start right away, assuming the price feels okay. Well, it's not the price. I just have to think about things. And it's like, well, wait, no, well, wait. Like, all of a sudden you have to think about things like before you said you're ready to go. And it's inevitably they don't trust themselves, or they worked with an agency like mine in the past and got 0 results. And so they're gun shy. And then the other objection I hear all the time, heard it again today. Well, I have no problem spending money if I know I get a guaranteed outcome. I'm going to say that next time I go into the casino and they're like, it's $5 to play blackjack per hand. I'll say, I have no problem betting on this hand as long as I know I'm going to win. Like, and I said to the person, I'm like, but marketing is gambling. There are anyone who guarantees you anything in marketing is lying to you. There are no guarantees. And I said, for example, I could guarantee you 10 calls a week, guaranteed or your money back, 10 calls a week from people we source on LinkedIn. And I said, you know what I could do is just find any tire kicking schmo living on his mom's couch who has nothing better to do than book calls, and I could book them on your calendar. And I could waste all your time. And I could say, well, listen, I guarantee 10 calls. You got 10 people. Not my fault they weren't good. You don't think they're good leads? We'll argue about it. And I said to him, like, I don't play that game, right? Like, people can guarantee that. Or he's like, well, the other thing I hear, another red flag I hear often is, well, this other agency said they're willing to basically work for free or a reduced rate. And then I just share, part of the profits with them, so every sale I make, they get a cut of it. And I'm like, okay, so can you walk into the Apple store and say, hey, listen, I want to buy that new MacBook or that iPad, and I'm going to use it for business. And if I make any sales using your iPad, I will come back to the Apple store and give you 10%. Right? No, like, there's no guarantee buying an iPad or a MacBook's going to get you any sales or customers. You're buying it because it's an investment, it's a tool, right? You're using it for business. And it's the same as I try to explain, like putting up a billboard and being like, you can put up a billboard and have your number and the best artwork and all your contact info. You can put it in the busiest part of town where the most cars go, and from the best neighborhoods and the wealthiest addresses. But there's no guarantee at the end of the day, A, that anyone will call you based on the billboard, or B, that you have the ability to close those deals, right? Even if that billboard generates 100 calls a day, what if you stink at sales? What if you stink at closing? What if you don't have a good follow-up process? Like, we had one client of ours who has a very detailed sales process and, was complaining to us about the lead quality. And I was like, okay, well, let's, talk through that. Like, what's your process when we hand you a lead, right? Because we do all this qualifying and warm up the person. And they're like, okay, I have a call. And then they move to step 2 and they have to fill out this form. And I was like, okay, and then what? And they're like, well, then I wait. What do you mean you wait? They're like, well, I wait to see if they fill out the form and never get back to me. I was like, so you don't follow up, you don't set a calendar, you don't like set an expectation of like, hey, in order to keep momentum going, you have to have this form filled out in the next 72 hours. It takes 5 minutes, blah, blah. Like, you don't follow up and chase them till they fill out the form or give you a hard no. No, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to pester people. And I'm like, but these are people who have already said they're interested in your service and they want to take the next step and fill out a form to see if they qualify, right? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not my fault. Like, that the way I view lead generation and sales is, if you're interested, if you've qualified, if you say you want to go to the next step, it's my job to follow up with you to make sure that you take that next step, because life gets in the way. You get busy, you get distracted, you forget, you have, concerns and more questions, but don't reach out to ask. So the job of you, once you get the lead, and I say this to clients, like, we'll help you with this, right? Our agency will, like, just tell me, we'll follow up with the people. I have no problem following up with someone and saying, hey, I know we had that initial call. You were going to fill out a form. Have you had a chance to get to it? Do you have any questions? Oh, I'm going to get to it Monday. Okay, well, then we'll make a note. We'll follow up Monday. Hey, great. Assuming you were able to get the form done today. Any questions? Oh, I'm not interested anymore. And we'll take you off the list. Fine. But like, if you don't follow up to that degree, you can't really blame the lead source. Like, I was talking to a guy that runs an agency, a Facebook ads agency, and he got this one company. I kid you not, it was something like 21,532 leads in a year, and they made 0 sales. And they were all mad at him and like, you're a failure. None of the leads were any good. He's like, out of 21,000 leads who, fill out, they were pitch perfect, ideal targeting, all the demographics. You're saying of the 21,000 people who fit your exact ideal buyer persona that we booked into your call calendar or whatever, none of them were good leads. Do you think there may be an issue with your sales process? And I think that company ended up going out of business, right? So again, there's so many variables, but those are red flags that you want to establish, right? Alignment. Do they have the same mindset? Are they bought into your approach, your tactics? I think another thing too, another red flag is if they don't know you. That's something I've really been super cognizant about, because if you had no idea I always like this example in the coaching industry because everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows who Tony Robbins is. He's the best shameless self-promoter of all time. He's been promoting his coaching program since the 1980s. I remember as a kid in the 80s staying up late at night, and have the infomercials late at night in the 1980s. You'd remember this. Tony Robbins is always on there, right, with his big grin, selling a CD or tapes or whatever about mindset and power. And it's like, everyone knows who Tony Robbins is. He's built this phenomenal personal brand, this outreach, this audience. So if you were to book a call with Tony Robbins himself about maybe coaching you personally, you would go in as like probably a super fan and be all excited. If you, for some reason, grew up in a cave for the last 40 years and didn't know who he was and got on the phone with him, you'd be like, so what do you do? And why would you be a coach for me? And like, he wouldn't want to have to spend all that time going, oh my God, where have you been for 40 years? Here's my resume. Here's my track record. I've coached presidents and athletes and entertainers and celebrities. And here's all these testimonials. And I've made these people all this money. So again, you want someone to come in to that sales call with you already indoctrinated to your brand, already warmed up, engaged, excited. I can't believe I'm getting to talk to you. I've read your book. I listen to your podcast every week. I get all your emails. I love your newsletter. I'm so excited to talk to you. I can't wait. And they're bought in, right? And the other thing with content and this is where I'm going, is if you put out enough good content where you're putting in your personality, you're being authentic, you're being genuine, you're being transparent, they will come into the call and feel like they already know you, right? And they already like you. And one of the things that came out of a recent mastermind I was in with our business group, the group coaching program I'm in, was people need their brain cannot tell the difference between spending 7 hours in the room with you one-on-one versus watching 7 hours of your YouTube videos. So think about that. Like, think about the power you have with social media and content, where literally, if they've been binging your YouTube channel and watched 7 hours worth of content, that's the equivalent of them spending all day with you one-on-one in a room talking. Like, they have that much camaraderie, rapport, cohesion, even though you didn't spend 1 ounce of your energy talking to them. Same thing with people reading books, right? If you read a whole book about a person and then you talk to them, you're so excited. You can't wait to talk to them because such a fan of your book. I loved your story. It resonated with me so much. The part about this, the part about that. When you explained your approach for this, that's exactly what I want to do. Oh man, I'm so excited to see if you can help me. Those types of leads versus who are you and what do you do and why would I care? And I'm just going to compare you to everyone else. You're just a commodity. There's nothing unique or different about you. So that's another red flag, is I really try to avoid that on the calls. If I'll say something like, and again, I put this in my pre-call form, but on a scale from who the hell are you to I'm your biggest fan ever, like, what do you know about me? Right. And if they're like, I don't really know anything, like, I just got your name on Google, I'm like, okay, like, this will be a quick call then. Like, I'll basically say, hey, you know what? I don't want to waste your time for the next hour trying to explain my whole backstory and, play footsie and get to know you. And I don't do that anymore. Like, let's have coffee and tell each other, meet each other and get to know. And like, no. Like, I would rather give you something that will do a far better job explaining my story to you than I can here sitting here with a cup of coffee. Like, here's a video I put together with my story. Here's a book that covers my whole journey and, all my different strategies, and I'll give you the quickest wins and the best way to accomplish what you want. Why don't you go through that? And if that really resonates and you still want to talk and want my help, then happy to book a call. And what happens is, inevitably then, that's really showing you whether or not that person's serious. Again, I think you don't want to have calls with people that are just kind of playing business. Like, they're not serious. They're not ready to move. And that's what I told a prospect recently. I'm like, and again, I don't ever want to be a jerk on a call, but I'm just like, I really want A players. I can't win with losers for clients, right? And I don't say that as a mean way, right? But you also want to impute to the other person what you're looking for in a client. So you want them to feel like, I'm a winner. Yes, why wouldn't you want to work with me? I'm going to kick butt and take names. I'm going to do whatever it takes. There's no holding me back. You'd be lucky to get me as a client, buddy. Like, that's the attitude I want with someone. Because then I know, man, okay, if I give them a lead, they're going to be like a starving dog. They're going to do whatever it takes to close it. They're going to give me feedback. They're going to, ask me for advice. They're going to want more help, all that. That's what I'm looking for, right? So you say to that person, like, well, how urgent is this to you? How important is it to you? Do you feel confident in your ability to do this? Do you need help structuring an offer? Do you need help pricing your services? Because all of that I can do and our team does. We'll help someone get there, right? It's not like you have to come and have it all figured out, but it's really more about the attitude of, do they really want this? And I think that's something where it can be hard to figure that out in a type form. And sometimes people lie, but it is really important to try to avoid those red flags. Now I can keep going. I realize there's an endless amount of red flags, but what I'm really learning is, be protective of your time. Like, really understand all your leverage, all your credibility, all your authority really revolves around what you do with your time. If you're someone where literally, I talked to another guy who's like, yeah, I'm so desperate for business. People can book a call with me 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and my calendar's wide open. And I'm like, you do realize that makes you look really like weak. Like, it looks like, well, if you're not busy, if you're not jammed up with calls, if you're not moving and shaking and doing stuff and working with clients, why is that? There must be a reason why you're always available, right? So there's a great story my business coach tells me about when he was in real estate and when he was first starting, and he had no clients, right? He had not sold any houses, and somebody said, hey, we got your name. We'd like to meet with you about selling our house. And he said, that's great. I can meet with you Thursday of next week. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, what time? And they booked a time, and he hung up, and he turned to his wife, and she goes, what are you talking about? You're just sitting on the couch. Like, why wouldn't you jump up and go meet with him right now? And he's like, because I'd look desperate. right? I'd look like I'm not busy. I'd look like I don't have clients. I'd look like I don't have a jam-packed schedule with a lot of activity and important tasks. And I never forgot that story, because even when he was struggling, he wasn't desperate and he didn't have that scarcity mindset. He had that authority mindset of like, yeah, I'm busy. My time is important. If you're serious and want to meet with me, here's what I have available if you want to make it work for you. And if not, no worries. And I love that approach. And I think it's really key, because again, the one thing you can never get back is your one-on-one time. Like, that's so valuable, especially if you want to have family time and hobbies and activities and not be a workaholic. You've really got to protect your schedule. You've got to figure out ways to, instead of doing a bunch of coffee meetings, can you bottle up what you say in every single coffee meeting and put it out as an ebook or a podcast or a video? Someone says, hey, I'd like to get to know you and network and explore synergies and see how we might be able to help each other. You can say, great, explore away. Here's a video with my whole story and what I do and who I help and how I help. And if that resonates and you think there's opportunities, happy to talk more. Like, do that instead of driving across town to meet for coffee. And again, I think too many of those people are just playing business. They're playing. They're not moving. Like, what I'm seeing from my best clients is like, I'm moving. I'm serious. Time is money. Let's go. Right. And that's what you want. And that's what you should look for. And that's what you deserve. Like, if you're a professional, if you're a pro, if you're serious, and again, this all comes down to mindset and the narrative you tell yourself, myself included, by the way. And this is why you win or lose based on client selection. And that's why, of my last 3 calls, I told all 3, you're not a good fit. We shouldn't try to move forward with this. Whether or not they would have signed on, I don't know, because I didn't go any further. I was just like, yeah, this isn't a fit for this reason. And they were kind of shocked. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to court me. You're supposed to do whatever I say. You're supposed to tell me you'll wait a week. You're supposed to say, if I want to talk to 20 references, you're supposed, and I was like, no, like, if you don't think I'm the real deal, if you're not sold on me, if this isn't a heck yes, based on all my testimonials, all my, all the stuff I've put out there, then we shouldn't work together. Like, I want you to be sold on me. I want you to not have a doubt. And they're like, oh, so yeah, again, just anyway, hope you found this helpful. I certainly found it helpful. Glad I'm enjoying my own podcast. So thanks so much for listening. Appreciate you. And hopefully we'll see you soon on another episode.